Coming up, racist or just racy? A tape with a cult following. Well, have you ever heard of Brocket 99? I admit I hadn't. It started as a cassette of a fake radio show set up on an Indian reserve in Alberta. The tape got copied and passed around, and Brocket 99 developed a cult following. Now, it's something of a cultural phenomenon in Western Canada. To some people, Brocket 99 is hilarious, but others don't hear the humor. They think Brocket 99 is racist and offensive, and what you're about to hear actually does include some language that might be considered offensive.
Rocket 99, rocking the reservation in stereo.
Roger. Up and Adam, it's 8:30 on the reservation with Ernie Scar. Good morning, here's some AC/DC to get your day started right. Hope to see you all at the big powwow coming up in Brocket on the 19th. You can stop by, lots of hospitality, gonna be lots of drinking and some Indian art.
All right, that's from Brocket 99. Nilesh Patel is a filmmaker in Vancouver. He's been curious about Brocket 99 ever since he first heard it when he was a teenager. Now he's making a documentary about it. Good morning, Nilesh.
Good morning.
Okay, well, first, this is a heavy one to get right into here. Tell me a bit about the content of Brocket 99, because we only heard a short snippet.
So the actual tape was made in the mid-'80s, and it's a parody of radio and a parody of what it would sound like if Aboriginals had a radio station. And it's based in the actual town site of Brocket on the Piikani Nation in southern Alberta. The content is basically, I look at it as it's a parody of a radio show, a classic almost CBC sort of morning radio show, especially at the end. It's basically a summary of all the stereotypes, all the jokes about alcoholism, abuse of alcohol, sexual abuse, pure idiocy and fallacy of the person, summed up into one tape. And it traveled, never sold, marketed, or distributed, but it was dubbed, and went across Canada, a lot of parts of the United States where you have associations with Aboriginals. So states that, like the Dakotas and Utah and Arizona. And due to the internet now, 20 years later from when it was made, it's had a resurgence of websites and the ability to be heard by people around the world.
So where did you first hear it?
I first heard it in the parking lot of my high school in Prince George, skipping class probably, to take a listen at Brocket 99 and laughed my butt off for, well, the period of time that we skipped out of class.
Do you remember what you thought of it when you first heard it?
I understood why we snuck out of class to go listen to it privately in a car the second I heard it. I just thought it was, you knew it was wrong. It was it was a dirty magazine. It was something you didn't want to get caught listening to, but it was funny. Like, a lot of the radio parody, like, they do an interview at the end where they basically recut an interview with a country musician star. And the way that it was done, it was just so well cut and so well taken in the way that they took on radio parody, and how that interviews tend to run to a certain beat, and people's, the interviewer's voice comes in at the appropriate moment and the person's statements end at the appropriate moment. So they took that and then added their own DJ doing the interview and what his take on everything the interviewee said was. So a lot of the actual parody, and let's be truthful here, the tape's two sides, 98 minutes total, I think. About 30 minutes of that's AC/DC. And the rest of it's really fart jokes. And I'm a 15-year-old teenage boy, so up north. And I'm getting 30 minutes of AC/DC mixed in with a bunch of fart jokes. It couldn't have been more appropriate for most the other men and people I knew.
Okay, the parts that weren't AC/DC and fart jokes. I mean, I don't ask you what you think of it now, obviously, but back to when you were a 15-year-old, did you find it offensive? Did you know, you knew it was something that you had to sneak out to hear, but were you actually offended by it?
Parts of it. Yeah, I definitely was offended by parts of it, but as a whole, I didn't really think it was. Well, I knew it was something you shouldn't listen to with a certain crowd, and I didn't ever own a copy, but I didn't really think about it too much. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think at 15 I thought about anything really too much.
Why decide to make a film about this?
Well, I thought about the tape popped into my mind 3 years ago again, and you think about that and assume there's some growth in your life and your way of thinking since when you're 15 and you're almost 30. You start thinking about things that happen. You're the reflective age past your mid-20s, and suddenly, if you're me, you start just thinking about funny stuff and like, wow, that was a funny tape. Then you start thinking about it a little more and go, oh, I think that was racist. And so what I did was I started going to the internet and started seeing this tape still floating around, like you could download it off of whatever file share is out there. And a few months later, websites started popping up. And I actually just went to a few parties and started throwing it around there and just saying, hey, has anyone heard Brocket 99? And started getting just this wide group of people from all over different parts of Canada, but probably not Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver, who had heard the Brocket 99 tape, and immediately the look in their eyes was like this sort of look around to see if anyone else was looking at them, and then they'd heard the tape, and I sort of thought it was weird for something that none of us had ever paid for, something that was obviously racist, that we all somehow had gotten a chance to listen to it, and for being so far apart, we found these jokes about, geographically, had found the same jokes about Aboriginals so funny. Yet we had grown up in completely different surroundings.
Did you have any sense at all that it would have this kind of cult following?
I never really thought, the tape's made in southern Alberta. I never even really thought about where it was made until deciding to really do the documentary and really listen to the tape. For me, growing up in Prince George, the tape seemed like it could have been made in Prince George. It was making fun of natives drinking Lysol. I worked downtown at the Zellers in Prince George, and one of my main jobs as a mail there was to protect the Lysol and Scope, to protect the margin of Zellers, based upon sales of Lysol and Scope. So no, they sell more than that. So I never really looked at the tape too far when I was younger, but now that I was older, it seemed like something that we could actually talk about. Like you and I are talking right now, and we're as two non-Aboriginal people talking about something that affects Aboriginals. And the way I looked at it and thought about it was, I think this affects Canadians. I don't think this is an Aboriginal issue. I think I find that the racism in it, they obviously understand it, just as any ethnic group understands the racism directed towards them. What is important about this tape is everyone who is listening to it and how it traveled so far without anyone really purchasing it. And why would someone be saying in southern Alberta or BC going, Uncle Joe in Nova Scotia would really find this funny. Okay, well, why would Uncle Joe find a tape that's so based in Western Canada, so funny when it's making fun of Aboriginals is really the only thing there? And when you start to think about that, it's something that can open up a discussion amongst Canadians about what our relationship is. And I mean this is non-Aboriginals and Aboriginals. This is a tape, a piece of media that immediately attracts an opinion, immediately attracts a discussion about...
And it generalizes. I mean...
Gross
It
generalizations.
doesn't just have implications for Aboriginals. I mean, this kind of tape could be made about various communities, playing off stereotypes.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what people all say, is that it can be made about